I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey you guys, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. So today is the day we are officially launching News du Jour merchandise with our bright red logo. I am so excited for you guys to see this little capsule collection. It is so cute. It is so on brand, and I've been wearing all of the different pieces since we created it, and I can't wait for you guys to see and to be able to just like wear my stuff on stories and show it to you guys and wear it proudly around town. I've been kind of hiding it up until now. So anywho, you can shop it at www.sugarfreemedia.co/shop, and we will go ahead and put that link in our show notes so you guys can easily click over and shop the capsule collection. You can also see the collection on our Instagram, which is at newsdujour.podcast. I wanted to also remind you guys that this weekend is Labor Day weekend here in the US, and because of that, I will be taking off through Monday, which means unfortunately you guys won't have an episode until Wednesday. Just wanted to give you guys that heads up, and I will talk to you soon. I really appreciate your patience when I'm taking these breaks because I do need a little time off from the news to just unplug and be with my family and recuperate, especially because this month has been a crazy month for me. We were traveling at the beginning of the month, and then my baby has been sick and home with me for 2 full weeks of the month. And this wasn't like a casual sick. It was like he was extremely sick. So it has just been very rough on me, and I'm trying to play catch up. So this weekend to rest is really going to be great for me mentally, spiritually, physically, all of the above. Anywho, today was a pretty low-key day on news, but there were some things that I felt were important to let you guys know about. So let's jump in. First and foremost, unsurprisingly, Donald Trump pled not guilty in Georgia. He and his legal team will fight these charges in court, but that was definitely expected. Next up, I wanted to update you guys on Idalia and let you know some statistics about the storm and what has gone on so far. So as of the time I'm recording this, here are some of the things we know. We know that there were 125 mile per hour winds, which is extremely intense. The last hurricane of this strength was back in 1896, which is just insane. It's insane that we are even able to like measure things like this at that time. That kind of blows my mind in and of itself. But a lot of this rapid escalation of this storm was due to extremely warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico. As we've mentioned before in this podcast, warm water is like crack to hurricanes. So when you hear about the ocean temperatures rising, even if it's just 1 degree, 2 degrees, that kind of thing will help these massive storms to create much more damage, much more danger, and just basically escalate more quickly. There are about 173,000 households still without power in this area, and that spans from Florida up into Georgia, according to poweroutage.us. At least 3 people have been killed by this storm, but fortunately there aren't a ton of injuries that have been reported. From what I've read, I feel like most of this area was evacuated really effectively. The people who were killed, all 3 of them, were in separate incidents in their vehicles in the storm, which kind of leads me to believe that maybe they were trying to evacuate late in the game, because otherwise, why would they be in their car out in the storm? At the end of the day, we do all have to heed local warnings, and that's not to say that these people didn't, but we have to evacuate when they're saying to evacuate. They're not saying it for fun. They're doing it to save lives. So if at all possible, when you hear an evacuation order, you got to go. And, I know it disrupts people's lives and their businesses, but find a friend, find somebody who can take you somewhere safe and stay there to ride out these storms, wildfires, because this is the climate era and this is what we have to look forward to. Pope Francis. Okay, let's dive into a little bit of what's going on with Pope Francis. So he is reportedly butting heads with Catholic conservatives who he says have put politics above their faith. Transcripts from a recent meeting with the Pope were leaked to the press, and they reveal that Pope Francis hasn't been holding back. Here's a quote from one of these meetings. Quote, "These American groups that you talk about, so closed, they are isolating themselves. Instead of living by doctrine, by the true doctrine that always develops and always bears fruit, they live by ideologies. When you abandon doctrine in life to replace it with an ideology, you have lost as lost in a war." End quote. The Pope emphasized in these conversations that morality evolves and that the church has to evolve with it, and that he feels conservative Catholics here in the U.S. are out of touch with the real teachings of Christ. And that leads us to the news about Clarence Thomas. So, guys, a day of reckoning is upon us. Clarence Thomas, where to begin? If you didn't know, this man started his time on the bench by having publicly been accused of rape. And now we find out that as a freaking Supreme Court justice, he has been accepting gifts from Republican superdonors. Things like luxury trips, flights on private jets, and even real estate transactions, which essentially amount to bribes. The Supreme Court does not have an official code of ethics, but it is assumed that behaving like this would ruin one's reputation for being impartial. But apparently, Justice Thomas is embracing a new low, even for him. There have been long-term whispers about this type of activity going on with him. But now Clarence is disclosing these gifts, and he's actually trying to defend them. He said that he had taken a friend's private jet because Roe versus Wade had just been overturned, and he feared for his safety. He said that he accidentally forgot to disclose these luxury trips with his billionaire friends in the previous filings. Whoops. This is not a good look for Thomas, you guys, and we will definitely keep you guys posted if there is any fallout from these revelations. And lastly, before we go for the weekend, do you guys remember the Proud Boys? A few of them have been sentenced. So they are the proudly misogynist group that led much of the insurrection activity on January 6th. Many of their leaders, as well as foot soldiers, faced consequences for their actions on that fateful day. They were convicted in the spring, and now they're facing their sentencing. Joseph Biggs got his sentence yesterday. He was only a lieutenant of sorts and was sentenced to 17 years as part of the sedition case. Another member, Stuart Rhodes, was sentenced to 18 years recently. Zachary Rail was sentenced to 15 years in prison yesterday. Their number one leader, Enrique Tarrio, and another top leader of the group were set to be sentenced this week, but their judge called out sick and sentencing was moved to September 1st and September 5th, respectively. But prosecutors are looking for 33 years, you guys, for Tarrio. We'll definitely keep you posted on how these important cases shake out. It is vital that these insurrectionists see penalties so that people don't attempt this dangerous type of stunt again. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "They carried all they could bear and then some, including a silent awe for the terrible power of the things they carried. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. Any little noises you may hear in the background are my rescue pup. He has a little separation anxiety and always records with me. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from